I grew up in Gilroy with my 3 brothers. We didn't have a lot of supervision. We kind of just ran around the streets and did whatever we wanted. My dad was a drug addict, so I didn't really see him very much growing up. And my mom and my stepdad had a really unhealthy relationship.
There were always red flags in Emma's childhood. She was having to walk to school in the rain, having to find her own rides, having to get access to food, and just being left home for weeks at a time.
I finally decided to leave because my mom's husband, he started threatening me, and I was like, it's not healthy. I was in a really bad place living with them, emotionally. I wasn't doing good in school, I didn't care.
Emma came to live with us in June of 2017, and it was at the time that Emma became witness to domestic violence in her home with her mother and her mother's boyfriend at the time.
It was time for us to step in. We were not going to allow Emma to live in that environment anymore.
Guardianship came into the picture when Emma injured herself. She sprained her ankle pretty badly, and through the course of trying to get her treatment, we realized that we had no authority to manage her health care.
My sister left the state, and we didn't have access to anything. No social security cards, no birth certificates, and at that point, we knew that we had to do something. We had to reach out to somebody for help.
Guardianships are an option under the law to provide custodial stability for kids whose parents are unable to take care of them. Kids 12 and over can petition to have someone appointed their guardian, and that's what happened with Emma.
Emma's case was a direct file guardianship, which means that it wasn't appointed by the court. Emma knew that she wanted Sonia and Susan to be her guardians. She knew that these were the people that were best for her. That entails us doing an assessment and assigning it to an attorney, and in this case it was a pro bono partner.
In this case, Emma was my client. She was the one asking for the guardianship. So my loyalties were to Emma. My focus was what is in Emma's best interest. And so my #1 goal was just to make sure that this was really what Emma wanted.
It was very clear from the very beginning that when we started working with the Law Foundation that Emma was the client. It wasn't us. And we really appreciated that, as I know Emma did, because Emma felt empowered by that.
Celine, she spoke for me a lot. I felt really protected, and I knew it would always be what I wanted.
Unfortunately, our case was not as simple as we thought it was going to be. My sister did decide after abandoning Emma that she was going to fight to get Emma, but in fighting for her, she didn't really want her. It was more she was going to punish Emma and myself.
The evening before we were ready to go to trial, we learned that Emma's mom had decided to sign over guardianship and that she planned to present a statement to Emma in mediation the next day.
When we walked into mediation, it was very clear that she was going to be very nasty, and she was.
I was expecting my mom to fight for me, and she didn't. And during the mediation, she basically blamed everything on me. And I didn't say a word the whole time. I just cried.
Celine stepped in and said, enough, that's enough. And my sister signed over her guardianship, and Celine kept her arms around Emma as support and as love.
I think it's important to have somebody who's there to hold that child's hand and think only about that child's interest and nothing else, and be their advocate in that courtroom.
Guardianships can be a great tool to stabilize the life of a child because where you live is huge for kids. It's less physically about what your shelter looks like and more about the people in your shelter providing you that day-to-day care. Those are the building blocks for successful adults. That's all it is who's loving you, who's acting on your behalf, who's meeting your needs, every day.
If we hadn't had the law foundation, I don't know if we would have been able to do it. I think putting it in her hands gave Emma that power that she hadn't had all her life. That right to choose made her feel powerful. I see Emma like I've always seen her, which is resilient. I see her as strong. She's little because she's small in stature, but I want her to see herself as grand.